Chiol and his fellow cadets traveled by bus. As he looked out the window, he observed the scenery, unchanged from both the past and the future. Beyond the horizon stood the massive wall separating the safe zones from the danger zones. Long ago, a colossal rift had appeared near the Pacific Ocean. Officially, it was deemed an unexplored space, completely inaccessible. From that blue hole, unknown monsters began to emerge. Humanity fought back against the invaders, attempting to reclaim their lost territories. Despite decades of resistance, vast regions remained unmapped and perilous. People began referring to those regions as unexplored or danger zones. Han leaned toward Chiol and asked whether the separation between the safe and danger zones was still maintained by the wall, commenting on how the landscape grew more desolate as they approached. Chiol confirmed this, noting that the scenery wasn't too bad from behind the wall. In contrast, the unexplored villages deep within the danger zones were far removed from anything resembling civilization. He recalled having lived in one such village during the war, hiding from enemies. He quietly advised Han to stay alert. The place they were headed to was a dungeon located in an unknown zone, one that remained completely unexplored. Moments later, the bus arrived at their destination. The cadets stepped out, taking in the surroundings. Jung-ho called them together and explained that they would first set up a base at that location. The test would begin once the necessary supplies were secured. He informed them that the bodyguards would remain stationed at the base, so once outside, the cadets would be on their own. However, he assured them that he would provide the best support possible from within the camp. Jung-ho encouraged them to give it their all and display everything they had prepared for this moment. The cadets responded with confidence and enthusiasm. Chiol turned to face the group and stated that he would take command from that point forward. He warned them that the evaluation would be considerably harder because of his presence. Before beginning, he offered them one last opportunity to back out, fully aware that the trial ahead was not designed for cadets. Their destination was the Forest of the Human-Faced Spiders, a dungeon notorious for being covered in dense webs that constantly revealed the location of intruders to the monsters within. He recalled that the mission objective was to capture an adult human-faced spider on video, a test that was clearly orchestrated by his father. Just as he finished speaking, Inha stepped forward and declared that there was no use trying to scare them anymore. No one in Class 5 would run away. Han agreed with confidence, and even Boseong added that they trusted Chiol. Their words surprised him. He sighed, smiling faintly, and commented on how casually they were saying such cringeworthy things. Boseong shyly replied that Chiol was the one who had created that atmosphere in the first place. Chiol accepted their determination and announced that he would assume that no one planned to give up. He instructed them to check their communication devices and supplies before departure. Once everything was confirmed, they would begin their entry into the forest. The cadets cheered in agreement, ready for what lay ahead. A moment later, Chiol stepped out of the base, fully aware that the forest ahead was home to colonies of human-faced spiders, creatures with human-like heads that exhibited social behavior similar to ants and bees, making them extremely difficult to handle. He turned to the group and reminded them that their mission was to record the behavior of human-faced spiders that were at least 10 years old using their filming equipment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he announced that from that point onward, he wanted Inha to take command. Inha was caught off guard and asked what Chiol meant by that. Chiol explained that he would be moving alone from here and declared that he would become bait for the human-faced spiders. The rest of the group stood in confusion, processing his words, until they suddenly shouted in protest, demanding to know what he meant by that. Deeper within the forest, spiders crawled across the ground and trees when Chiol suddenly drove his weapon into one of them, killing it instantly. Breathing heavily, he looked up and noted that they had all begun to gather, just as he had hoped. To him, it was worth killing one to trigger the release of its danger-signaling pheromones. He recalled that human-faced spiders took only highly nutritious prey back to their den to feed their larvae. The way they assessed nutrition was straightforward: strength. The stronger the prey, the more valuable it was to them. As the spiders rushed toward him, Chiol shifted Boundless into the form of a spear, knowing that their instinct required prey to demonstrate its power. He struck swiftly, cleaving another spider in half using the split demon technique. When he looked up again, a swarm of spiders had gathered, their many eyes glaring at him. As they lunged, he remained calm. A small smile formed on his lips as he dropped his weapon and allowed the spiders to capture him. Sometime later, Chiol regained consciousness. He realized he was wrapped tightly in webbing and wondered if he was inside one of the spider's cocoons. For now, things were going according to plan. Though he felt slightly bloated from the venom, his physical condition was still manageable. He activated his stealth arts to erase his presence and returned Boundless to its original form. Carefully, he sliced through the strands holding him and considered that if this was indeed their den, then the spider larvae must be nearby. He pierced the cocoon with Boundless and cut a small opening to peek outside. What he saw next confused him. There were far too many feeding cocoons, an unusual number for just a day's hunt. Many should have been consumed by now, yet they remained untouched. Then he noticed a massive cocoon in the center of the den. Several spiders stood guard around it with unusual caution. It moved. Chiol froze. A strange sensation ran through him. His dark energy resonated with whatever was inside. The large cocoon cracked open and spider legs began to emerge, followed by a human-like hand. From within appeared the human-faced Spider Queen, a rank 5 monster. She referred to the surrounding spiders as her children and asked if they were hungry. Chiel noted that although she spoke in human language, her mouth never moved. He began to wonder if the dark energy inside him was allowing him to hear her thoughts directly. Suddenly, the queen swung one of her sharp legs and stabbed the cocoon where he had been kept. Fortunately, Chiel leapt out just in time, but the effort disrupted his stealth technique and exposed his position. The Spider Queen glared at him and demanded to know what he was, accusing him of holding the power that had awakened her. She demanded to know why a human possessed it and shouted for him to hand it over. As she spoke, she released an aura of fear, an oppressive pressure only high-ranking predators could emit. But Chiel remained unaffected. Fear had no hold on him. The queen, visibly stunned, questioned how he had deflected her mana. Her expression turned furious as she called him an impudent human. But then, she caught the scent of smoke. Her gaze shifted sharply to the side. An explosion erupted in the distance, flames rising high in the center of the forest. The Spider Queen panicked as she saw her forest engulfed in flames. Furious, she demanded to know what Chiel had done, but he simply smirked and explained that it was a weapon known as a mana explosive shell. He remarked that the forest was filled with plenty of material to burn, and it had erupted magnificently the moment he gave the signal. Through his earpiece, Han reported that they were departing and estimated that it would take no more than 30 minutes to reach the den. Soon after, Jung-ho contacted Chiel from the base camp to inform him that a 5th-rank entity had been detected in the den and was about to suggest that Chiel return. However, Chiel calmly told Jung-ho not to worry about him, and instead to focus on supporting the other cadets. The Spider Queen, enraged, ordered her children to leave the den and defend the forest. Turning her attention back to Chiel, she vowed to tear him apart and consume him herself. She insulted him as an impudent human child, questioning whether he believed he could defeat her alone, or if he was placing his faith in his teammates who were currently racing toward the den. She warned him not to be so certain that they would reach him, declaring that he would soon realize he was powerless against her. But Chiel remained composed and told her she was the one underestimating him. This caught her off guard. He closed his eyes, focused, and then opened them, his eyes glowing with power as he looked at the Spider Queen. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the forest, Inha issued commands to continue detonating the mana explosive shells in order to draw more of the human-faced spiders away. He instructed Group 1 to head to the den and secure Chiel's retreat route, which they immediately followed. Boseong approached and asked whether a change had been detected from the den and if it was truly safe to proceed. Inha replied that they would move forward as planned, as it was Chiel's direct order, and all they could do now was hope Chiel could hold on a little longer. As the cadets set fire to the forest, destroying it section by section, the Spider Queen launched relentless attacks. With each strike, she shouted in disbelief, questioning why Chiel was still alive and how he continued to stand. Though Chiel successfully dodged her strikes, he remained quiet and focused. She looked into his eyes, now burning with energy, and questioned what he was seeing with them. Chiel recognized the ability. Eyes that could perceive everything hidden, the countless currents of power. They were magic eyes, capable of reading the flow of mana. But he suddenly coughed up blood, realizing that although the magic eyes had allowed him to avoid a fatal strike, the difference in power between them was too great. He had only narrowly escaped death. Applying healing potion to his wounds, he noted with relief that the Spider Queen had only recently hatched and couldn't control her body perfectly. Pouring dark energy into Boundless, he prepared for a decisive move, knowing he had just one chance. He assumed the basic stance of 1,000 forms, enhanced his energy with lightning, and delivered a powerful slash toward the Spider Queen. The strike detonated within the den, unleashing a violent burst of energy. Blood sprayed from the Spider Queen's wound as Chiel stood, breathing heavily. He observed the queen writhing and screaming in pain, but quickly realized that his attack had been too shallow. Her thick carapace had not been fully breached. The Spider Queen rose again, swearing she would make him her servant. She vowed to tear everything from within him and use it to regenerate her body. Then, with fury, she hurled a sharp web in his direction, declaring she would make him suffer for eternity. Chiel attempted to dodge, but he was too slow. One strand of the web struck him in the head and burrowed into his brain. Suddenly, he heard her voice, urging him to submit. Pain radiated from his head, spreading through his entire body. The queen's voice echoed repeatedly in his mind, commanding his submission. He screamed in agony. The Spider Queen laughed at his suffering, mocking him and questioning where his arrogance had gone. But then, unexpectedly, the queen began coughing blood. Alarmed, she shouted in panic, demanding to know what was happening. Her body erupted in fresh wounds as she stumbled toward Chiel, trying to strike him down with her claw. Chiel, still standing firm, told her that she should have been more careful. A burst of flame ignited beside the Spider Queen, setting her ablaze. Chiel, watching calmly, explained that insects, particularly spiders, were naturally vulnerable to fire. As the flames spread, he turned to his cadets and remarked that they were late. Han, catching his breath, apologized and explained that they had to fight through monsters on the way, which delayed their arrival. Supporting Chiol by the arm, Han helped him walk. Chiol casually commented that it seemed special training would be necessary once they returned, which made Han wince and express disbelief that Chiol could say something like that even in his condition. Chiol then instructed the group to leave the den immediately. The cadets agreed and quickly made their way outside. Meanwhile, in the evaluation conference hall, instructors murmured among themselves. They noted that Class 5 from the first years was late, despite a report stating they had returned 30 minutes prior. Some speculated that they might have failed the mission like Class 4. Others remarked that it wouldn't be surprising considering the dungeon in question was a special 6th rank dungeon, meaning an anomalous phenomenon had occurred within. Just then, Jung-ho entered and apologized for the delay. He explained that they had numerous injuries and had prioritized getting the cadets to the clinic. Rushing to the stage, he picked up the remote and announced that he would begin the report immediately. He explained that Class 5's mission had been to capture footage of adult human-faced spiders in their natural behavior. However, due to the unexpected anomaly, the team also began collecting additional information. Jung-ho reported that Class 5 had divided into 4 groups before entering the dungeon and had deployed 132 mana explosive shells. One of the instructors interrupted, asking for clarification on the use of weapons. Jung-ho confirmed that they had indeed used weapons, stating that an additional 52 explosive shells had been deployed after encountering further monsters, bringing the total to 184. The instructor became visibly angry, accusing Class 5 of attempting to destroy the entire dungeon. The instructor shouted at Jung-ho, reminding him that the mission was to document the anomalous phenomenon, not to demolish the site. He questioned how the mission could be considered a success under such circumstances. Jung-ho responded calmly, affirming that the mission had been successfully completed. Demanding evidence, the instructor ordered Jung-ho to show the video. At that moment, the conference room doors opened and Chiol entered. He apologized for being late and explained that time had been needed to restore the damaged recording equipment. He then handed the repaired footage to Jung-ho. Hua, standing nearby, muttered that Chiol was insane, questioning how he could justify using explosive devices in a dungeon. She also noted that there was no need for him to be captured alive. Chiol simply replied that it had been the most reliable method to ensure the entire process was recorded accurately. A short while later, the video played. The room fell silent. The previously critical instructor, now stunned, acknowledged that the report had been entirely accurate. He remarked that the use of explosives had been as dangerous as pouring oil onto a fire, but he could now see that everything had been executed according to plan. He questioned whether anyone could consider such a strategy normal. Keel responded that his only objective had been to formulate the plan with the highest chance of success. He then asked whether cadets could truly have completed that mission with a conventional approach. The question rendered the instructor speechless. Keel continued, stating that he had chosen to do whatever was necessary to avoid failure or abandonment of the mission. He reminded the panel that the esteemed Marshall Lee clan was a place where results spoke louder than anything else. The previously critical instructor thinks what had seemed like chaos was now revealed to be deliberate and calculated. Even the unpredictable elements had been factored in, making it clear that Chiol, despite his status as an illegitimate child, had approached the mission with complete certainty in his plan.